All right, ladies, welcome to this episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. Today, we're addressing a super hot topic, and I would venture to say this is the number one complaint and problem identified by the women that I come in contact with, and that is leads, leads, leads. I need more leads. We are talking
Mhm.
about next level lead generation, ladies, 10xing your results. This is going to be definitely an episode that you're going to take notes on and refer back to. My guest today is Tamara Milliken. She is a national award-winning sales and marketing expert on this topic of lead gen and automation, so we can fill your calendar with right people, right? We're not talking about social media, posting or DMing, right? We're not talking about pouring money into ads. Today, we're talking about lead gen in a way that makes sense, right? So Tamara helps her coaching and consulting clients build seven-figure businesses by reducing their tech stack to an all-in-one platform at a fraction of the cost. We're going to talk about that coming up. She's the host of the Turn Clicks into Clients podcast. And when she's not working, she's spending time with her hubby and her not one, not two, not three or four, but five kids. Let's welcome Tamara to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here, Judy.
Oh, my pleasure to host you. Listen, lead gen, as we know, is critical to business because without
Mhm.
clients, you don't have a business. And there's so many gurus out there touting their one way to get solid leads. And some of them I mentioned, in the intro. And it can be so confusing. And a lot of it requires a significant investment. So let's start right out of the gate. What have you found, Tamara, to be the most effective ways to bring more leads into your clients' businesses?
Oh, that is such a great question. It's really a strategy that encompasses email, SMS text messaging, and a powerful lead magnet because your list and continuously growing your list is really important. But you have to have the right lead magnet because people are more stingy these days. Business is different now than it was a few years ago. And so your lead magnet has to really stand out and really grab their attention. And then when you have them opt in, make sure that they're providing not only their email address, but their phone number. That mobile number is so important to capture as well. Because then what you want to do going forward is have a nurture series for both email and text messaging. And text messaging, you have to be very careful with. It's a different strategy than emailing, but the two together are magic.
Okay. Now I'm just talking from my gut here. Okay. So I'm gonna ask the question. Some text marketing messages that I get, it's getting to almost be like DMs in the socials these days. It's a little nutty
Mhm.
and it's a little in your face. So I would love if you wouldn't mind exploring just a little bit of the differences between email marketing and text before we dive into
Mhm.
lead gen itself.
Right. Okay, great question. And I have the same concerns. So, with email marketing, the challenge with it is most people aren't reading their emails anymore. We all have thousands of emails that are not read in our inbox, right? I think if you're lucky, you're getting 40% open rates. Most people are down in the 15 to 30% range of open rates. Text messaging, we all have our phone with us all the time. Those messages are read 95% of the time within 5 minutes. Now, you hit on the thing that everybody is concerned about with text messaging, and that is, you don't want it to feel spammy. And with the right strategy, it won't. It should feel like a conversation with a girlfriend.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
That is so good. And well, yeah, I could go on and on. You know what? I'm capturing screenshots of, and I save it into my notes in my iPhone and I call it, what is this? It's not marketing. And so I'm
Mhm.
developing this whole
Yeah.
screenshot series so that I can one day like bring it out. Okay. So how about, you said both text and email. So
Mhm.
is it okay, how do I say this? I found from my data, this was like a year and a half ago, so things may have changed, that when I had the phone option for the opt in, I had a lot of people that were going to my page but didn't opt in because it was required.
Okay.
So
That's
now I make it optional, but let's talk about
Yep.
that for a
Yep.
second.
Yeah, make it optional if you want. But I think more and more people, if they're opting into a valuable resource, they want the text message reminders, especially if it's for an event you've got coming up. Maybe you're doing a master class or a webinar or you're speaking at a summit, something that they don't want to miss. That's when people are more times than not happy to give their mobile number because they want the reminders. How many times have you said, I need to go to this masterclass today? They didn't send a text reminder and you missed it, right? Because you weren't checking your emails as often as you would have needed to do to get that reminder. So it has to be an important reason. And I think in the opt-in page, when you're asking for the mobile, make sure it is considered an optional field and that's clear to them, and that they can unsubscribe at any time. And you're complying with all the regulations around that. And I always make sure that when I'm texting people for a lead generation campaign, that I remind them how to opt out at any time. So it never feels spammy if you do it the right way. It's very personalized. It is specific to what they opted in for. So when you bring people into your email list and adding people to your contact list, make sure you're tagging them and marking them what their interest was, why they opted in the first place, so that when you send that text message, it's personalized to them. It matches why they gave you that information in the first place. And then you'll have no problems. People are not going to report that as spam, and especially if it's not, 2 and 3 paragraphs long of propaganda about your offer. The key with text messaging is to keep it short and sweet so that there's an exchange, a two-way communication back and forth, rather than just a one-way giving them all this information about an offer, a paragraph upon paragraph that nobody's going to read.
Well, I know that for delivery purposes in email, we need to have some of that back and forth. Like that's got to be something we are mindful of. Does the same thing matter in the way of text? Like you just mentioned conversation. So should we end a text kind of with a question or a
Mhm.
call to action? Like obviously, hey, don't miss the webinar. It's happening now. But other than that,
Yes, you can do that. It doesn't improve your deliverability to have that two-way. It's not like that. But I think asking a question is good regardless because it gets them to engage back. And as soon as you can start having that two-way conversation, you just take it to a whole new level. And they've gone from a cold lead to a warm lead at that point, if they're willing to have that conversation.
okay, really good. And we might have to get onto this later on when I talk about the text specific stuff. But
Mhm.
so the way you do text messages, is it a bot that's answering or is it a live
No,
person?
it's a
Okay.
live person. We have an automation sequence that runs through the first message that goes out, waiting to see if they reply. And then after that, it's a real person.
Good, good, good. That makes me,
Mhm.
yeah, that feels better to me.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked about earlier how important this lead magnet is. So how can we determine the perfect or right lead magnet for our specific expertise or niche?
It's such an important thing to consider because I think so many times people don't put enough thought into it and they just create a one-page cheat sheet or something that really doesn't have the value and the substance behind it that it needs to in today's marketplace for people to hand over their contact information. So I think it needs to be more along the lines of a workbook, a mini video class, something that's real substantial and provides real value. So if you think about your ideal client and the service that you provide, what is it that your ideal client is struggling with right before they need your service?
Mm, yeah.
Right before they need what you offer. They're struggling with something else. What is that something else? That's what you want your lead magnet to address.
Can you give us an example? Because I like to just pop one example. Because if it's like me, that might be I get your concept, but if there was one client example that you might be willing to share, that might really get the juices flowing.
For sure. So if you're a business coach and you help people develop their package and their signature system, oftentimes what they're trying to figure out before they need that is what their niche is going to be. So your lead magnet could be more specifically or deep dive into finding your $1 million niche. If you're somebody who is creating an offer for a wellness program, maybe what people are struggling with right before they're ready to buy wellness coaching is figuring out what options they've got. What can they eliminate as options that they might try? And what are some things they might not have thought about? Give them a bunch of resources that will open their mind to what's available. Another thing that I use in mine is a lot of people that come to me, they don't know how to nurture leads once they get them.
Mm.
So in my case, I'm offering lead generation and automation. But what people struggle with right before that is, how do I even capture people? How do I bring them into my world? And how do I nurture them once they give me their contact information? So I help people with email sequencing and messaging strategy that takes people from that cold lead to hopefully a paying client with the right messaging that happens through a series. Does that
Okay.
answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
perfect. So let's talk about that. It's interesting because I just came off of a class inside one of my programs I'm in, and a guest speaker came on to talk about specifically pitch sequences. So
Mm-hmm.
do you in working with your clients, do you separate out the nurture sequence, just kind of getting to know them, than the pitch? Because the pitch could
Yes.
be very specific depending on if I'm pitching, quote unquote, my sales call or my webinar or my program.
Exactly. So in the nurture series, what I recommend people do is, it's usually a 5 to 7 email series that warms them up. So the first email they get gives them the downloadable link for the lead magnet. Then you wait a day or two, and your next email will be a little bit about you, a little bit about why you're an expert in the field, why you're great at what you do. Wait a day or two. The third email could be a case study or a testimonial, something that shares a success story of a client who's worked with you. Wait a couple days. Email number 4 can be a little bit more about what you offer, why you got into business in the first place, and why you love what you do.
Mm.
Email 5, you could start to hint at the offer. And then email 6 or 7, you've gone into the full-blown offer and you're asking for them to take a next step. So between email 5 and 6 or 7, you have gone from hinting at an offer to telling them about the offer and the call to action. I don't encourage people to put a call to action on their emails until that point, because
Okay.
they haven't gotten a chance to know you. And the other thing I highly recommend is, in email 2 or 3, remind them to go back and use the lead magnet. Because how many times have we downloaded these lead magnets that are fabulous? We have all the best intentions to use them, and they get buried in your inbox and we forget. So remind them to go back to that email and use it, and talk to them about why it's so great and what they're going to get out of it. Because when they use that lead magnet, when they actually work through whatever it is you offered them for free, they'll get to know, like, and trust you quicker, faster, and better than they will if they didn't.
Mhm.
So that's an important piece of it as well.
Okay, very good. A question just popped into my mind regarding lead magnets, and that is, do you have you seen that it is more important to have a couple of different really good lead magnets, or one go-to that, like, that's your go-to? And the reason I'm asking that, I'm thinking of like what I specialize in helping my clients like get a sophisticatedly simple business. I'm not one that has, I don't want my people to have this suite of 6 and 7 services. It's insane. So it's more
Right.
like one or two. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that as far as the number of lead magnets, and that might vary depending on the business model.
Yes, I think it does vary. However, I'm with you in that simpler is better.
Mhm.
One powerful lead magnet is better than several that don't have a lot of depth to them. And what happens is, if you offer too many lead magnets on your website, they start to wonder what your expertise really is. If it looks like it's diluted into all these different things, they're like, well, I'm really looking for someone who specializes in this area. This is where I'm stuck right now. And so the more specific you can be to your ideal client about why you're an expert at that one specific thing, the more easy lead generation becomes. So I think if you offer too many lead magnets, it starts to water down your messaging a little bit. I don't know. What do you think about
I can
that?
see that. I can totally see that. I can
Yeah.
see that it feels kind of like a, what do they call that? Spray and pray kind of thing. I'm just going to do a little
Hmm.
bit of this and that in the hopes of reaching someone, as opposed to being in that power CEO mindset to say, I know what my clients need. I'm going to focus here and here, maybe two, but I'm with you on that. Okay.
Hmm.
Love it.
Because the other thing is, if you give too many lead magnets, they'll download all of them on the same day, right? They click, 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 and then they don't use them
Mm.
because there's too many there and it's overwhelming. So I think the key is not overwhelming them and just having one powerful lead magnet.
So good. So good. All right, let's get into a topic. I am not a tech savvy person, and I always say I'm improving more every day. But, even the word tech stack, I have to smile when I say that, Tamara, because that's like not a word that comes out of my mouth. you know, like my people talk about tech stacks. I don't really know what that is, but talk to us, please, about this software that you recommended that is like kind of an all-in-one. And like, I'm just dying to know what it is.
Oh, thank you. Well, what I find is that so many people love to work with clients. They love to create content, but they're getting bogged down in the back end system of their business. They've got their CRM over here, their digital course over here. They've got a website over yonder and maybe text messaging, but probably not back on a different software platform. They might have a membership site somewhere, but that's separate. And they're trying to piece all this together. Oh, and then their calendar system, that's on another software, right? You can spend so much time trying to duct tape all that software together to make them talk and integrate. And then oftentimes the integrations break. And they break and don't even realize it until it's too late and you've missed a whole bunch of opportunities.
Yeah.
So I found that people were spending a fortune on all this software. It was adding up really quickly and it was taking way too much of their time. So I have a system that's all in one, your CRM, your calendar, appointment booking software. You can take payment, your digital course platform, your website, your membership site, a website chat widget, your quizzes, your sales pages and funnels. It's all in one system at a fraction of the cost that people are spending now. So you don't have to spend all this time trying to make it work. It just works. We set up the automations for you. We consolidate all the tech at the beginning and onboard you in a very easy to use way so that a lot of the work is done for you on the back end. And then we train you with one-on-one training so that it's really clear how to use the system going forward. And then the automations do the work for you on the back end while you sleep.
Wow, it's so good. And I just was thinking, I just got involved in a software that sounds similar, although I don't know that it has quite everything. But so it sounds like this amazing all-in-one platform we can only get when we become a Tamara Milliken client. Is that right? Is that
Well,
right?
yes, yes. I mean, there's a lot of all-in-one platforms out there, but most of them don't give you the training or the onboarding. They show you the video library and say, here's the training video.
Yeah,
Let
have
us
at it.
know, have at it, submit a support ticket if you need help. And, you get that response back in 2 or 3 days, maybe if you're lucky. Whereas with me and my team, you've got one-on-one onboarding and very white glove customer service to make sure you get your questions answered. And then we also have tech VAs that are trained on the system. So if you're looking to consolidate and bring over a big digital course that you've built somewhere else, and you don't want to take the time to move it over, and that's not part of our onboarding to move that gigantic course over, for example, we've got tech VAs at offshore tech VA prices that can consolidate that really quickly and cost effectively for you because they already know how to use the system.
So good. So can I ask, and you can say, well, no, you have to hop on a call, but I'm curious, like what generally is that price point?
Yeah, so it depends on how you want to pay for it, but $117 a month for
Oh my
everything.
gosh, that's amazing.
Yep,
Okay, that's
yep.
amazing. Ladies, if you don't have an all-in-one and you don't reach out to Tamara, I mean, really, that's an amazing price, trust me. Okay. So, all right. Well, let's jump to one topic that I did download your opt-in and it's amazing. And
Thank
in there you talk about what I call collaborative partnering,
you.
like affiliate networking. You suggest finding 10 to 20 partners, quote unquote, with the same ideal client, but a different niche, right? So that you can kind of refer business to each other. What's the best way to find that great 10 to 20 partner, if you will?
Such a good question. I find a lot of them in the networking groups that I'm part of. I do find some of them on social media. LinkedIn especially, like I can go to LinkedIn and do a search if I know that somebody is a digital course creator, for example, and they specialize in creating the digital course for somebody. They are an ideal partner for me because we're both usually looking for the same ideal client, but she services them in a different way than I do. So that would be an example of how you can go use social media to your advantage by searching people out in that fashion.
That's really good. Okay, I love that idea. And I think that that is a really underutilized way of gaining visibility.
Hmm.
Leads, of course, will come from the visibility, but even just like, oh, well, social, the algorithms or whatever, like there's ways around that. And that's
Hmm.
one great way to do that. All right, well,
Hmm.
super.
Right.
Well, I understand, tell the ladies about this amazing freebie that I downloaded and fell in love with. It's called
Hmm.
Lead Generation Roadmap. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I feel like so many people love the idea of building that contact list, but they really don't know where to start. So I created a resource that helps you with a step by step approach of what to think about. Not only with your lead magnet, but what's the messaging you're going to use to warm them up to understanding who you are, what your brand's about, and why you're a genius at what you do. And I also think it's really important for people to step outside the box and look at other ways, like you just mentioned, to build their network, to build their audience that doesn't involve paid ads and all this time in Facebook groups, posting and hoping that people respond. And I laid it out so that it's really, there's a lot of templates in there. There's a lot of ideas where if you walk through it every day, it might take a while to get through because there's a lot, but you can really have a full blown lead generation strategy if you utilize what's in there. And then the key, of course, is execution, and execution on the back end with automation so that you're not doing it manually. You have to set it up so that it automatically does run for you, and and you can rely on that to work for you every time. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and I have to say, when Tamara said, it might take a while to go through it, that's exactly the kind of, I mean, I was blown away. It's very detailed. That's worth like a lot of money, that download. So I'm going to leave the
Thank
link
you.
for that. Sure thing. I'm going to leave the link for that in the show notes, of course. But where is the best place for ladies listening that are falling in love with you? They're oohing and ahhing and they're like, I need to contact you. How can they best do that?
Thank you. Yes, go to my website, clickautomations.com. Click Automations has an S on the end.com. And you can schedule an appointment with me. We can talk about digital marketing strategies for your business and how what you're doing is working or not working, and where we can help fill in the holes and catapult you to your next goal.
Excellent. All right. Well, Tamara, thank you so much for your time. This is gold. So I really appreciate
Thank
you sharing so
you. It's
much.
been
All
my
right.
pleasure. Thank you.
All right, ladies listening, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, for getting us to the top 10 of all Christian women podcasts and the top 13 of all Christian entrepreneur podcasts. Please be sure to share this out, tell others about it, because you know what? I'm on mission. We're setting the gold standard in business coaching for Christian women. And so I welcome you to spread the news about that. Let's be bold, courageous, and impactful. And together we could do so much. So thank you for listening. As always, let me hear your feedback and we will talk to you next time.